This is a true story that happened in my town.
Zach Cregger's Weapons, director of Barbarian, starring Josh Brolin, Julia Garner as the leads. And it's this mystery thriller horror film getting a lot of hype and a lot of attention, and we've both seen it recently. What did you think of it, Tommy? And do you want to give us a little setup of what the film's about?
Yeah, so Weapons, very interesting movie for sure. Zach Cregger of Barbarian fame, love that film. As you mentioned, Josh Brolin, Julia Garner, also Alden Ehrenreich is in this film. And the plot, well, the premise is great. The plot follows this seemingly inexplicable case of 17 children from the same classroom who mysteriously run away on the same night at the same time, 2:17 in the morning, I believe, having been apparently abducted by some unseen force. The community is left questioning who or what is behind their disappearance, and we see kind of like the aftermath of this event through the eyes of various characters. The film is presented in a nonlinear narrative type of structure. You know, we jump between various characters whose stories intersect and converge at some point. We have these title cards with the name of the character, and we follow them for whatever, how long it needs.
I love this structure of the film and the way the events unfolded, and it was something I didn't expect the film to have at all, and it was probably the biggest shock of the film was the way it was structured, but that was probably my favorite aspect of it. But I think Zach Cregger said his sort of main influence for Weapons was Magnolia.
Magnolia,
which
I
I
read
haven't.
that too.
I'm yet to see Magnolia. Actually, it's been on my watch list for a long time, and I know. Shoot me
Good
now.
movie.
I need to see that movie. But yeah, and it's a sort of, and then you got it kind of has a bit of almost a Tarantino-esque feel at points, like a Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely loved the way this one was structured, and I don't know. You said you've seen Barbarian, haven't you?
I did, yeah, but we shouldn't go too much into Barbarian because just as this movie, it's the type of film that if you want to talk about it, you gotta spoil it. And so I think we should tread lightly.
It's I thought it was amazing. It was a proper hit out of nowhere for me. I just didn't know. I know what went into the film blind, which is the best way to go into a film like that. And
Totally.
it gave me some expectations of the quality of Weapons, and also they tell the story in an interesting non-linear way in Barbarian too, if you remember rightly. You sort of get these three different perspectives throughout the film in different time periods. So yeah, like there's clearly something he's very interested in doing.
I loved Barbarian more than this.
Yeah, same.
I enjoyed Weapons, but seeing all the buzz around it leading up to its release and everyone talking about it, I thought I'd love it, and I didn't quite love it. It was a cool idea, some great moments, but the film overall left me wanting a little bit more.
Yeah.
I guess you could say I loved the setup more than I liked the explanation.
Yeah,
if
I
that
think
makes
that's
sense.
fair, and I think that is a problem with a lot of horror films. That third act, and we mentioned it even in Bring Her Back, which we thought was great. It just when you solve that mystery, especially in a story like this, it can be unsatisfying, or the allure and the suspense of the mystery is gone now, and so the film becomes a lot less interesting. And I totally agree with you. I think Barbarian is better. This Weapons is probably a bit more ambitious, and it's
Yeah.
a bit more of a in-depth story, but I think Barbarian was more concise, more well executed, and had better scares. If we're going on, if we're looking on the, like the horror scale of it, because Weapons is more of a
Yeah.
thriller, missing kids detective story. We obviously see a lot of influences from kind of like Prisoners and like we said, Magnolia, and films that aren't necessarily rooted in horror. But yeah,
The horror elements are the weakest of the film.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like
Even though there is some really creepy, good imagery in this, in
Oh
Weapons,
yeah,
and there's
totally.
there are definitely some moments I felt genuinely creeped out. But it's yeah, I enjoyed Barbarian more, but I absolutely love Barbarian. I thought Weapons was still really enjoyable, and it's one of my favorite films of the year that I've seen still.
Production value is great. Cinematography is amazing. I think it's the same guy from Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was also an immaculately shot film. So it's really, just some shots are just immediately iconic. Like the way doors open in this movie. Like it's so creepy. And the way they did certain effects, like on these and I guess you can see that in the trailer too, so it's not a huge spoiler, but like how they did these like beady eyes on these zombie like people. It was like, I don't know if it was like makeup or CGI or a mix of both, but they were just unsettling to look at. Like Benedict Wong haunts my dreams as a zombie since I've seen this film. um Getting a little bit into what might consider the negatives. I generally dislike movies that start with voiceovers, and I also hate when movies say something along the lines of, "Oh, this is a true story,"
Yeah,
but it's actually
that was
not a true
funny.
story.
Yeah.
And I understand why certain movies decide to do this, and it works in certain contexts, and it doesn't in others. And given what the themes of the movies are, and like what kind of like the idea behind it is, I understand why you wanted to start a movie like this. But I was like, oh, the whole movie I was like, I need to check if this is real, because I hope it's not real, because Jesus Christ, the stuff that happens
I'm
in this
hoping you
movie.
realized that at some point in the movie that this was not a true story. Sorry.
I mean, I knew from the get-go that it wasn't, but I was like, okay, so when is this gonna become clearly not a
Yeah,
real
I
story?
know what you mean. I kind of don't like that when films misrepresent themselves. And I suppose this didn't quite do that because it's in this narrative of the film, the girl is saying this is a true story. So it's not quite being as egregious as when some other films say like
Yeah,
said market themselves as that. But it kind of I quite liked it because it set up this kind of like fairy tale feel to the movie, having this little kid's
yeah,
like voiceover and dialogue, and it felt like this twisted dark fairy tale.
yeah. The premise again, fantastic. Just the way it immediately sets up everything. But I was looking at the like literally the intro sequence. Like when Julia Garner walks into the classroom, and then we slowly pan behind her, and then we reveal the one kid, Alex, the one kid that didn't disappear that night. And while I was watching that scene, I was like, would have this been better without the fucking monologue voiceover on top? Like, I don't know, like some scenes were so cool, and I was like, oh, there's this guy just telling me what I'm supposed to take from this scene. I don't know, sometimes it just takes away from
Yeah,
what
no,
you're
I
experiencing.
get you, and I thought the intro was a little bit long-winded in general, and maybe because they
Yeah,
felt like they had so much to set up, and maybe the rest of the film works really well because we've had that big explainer at the beginning, even though it's a bit clunky. Then they can just get into the fact that, oh, right, we're going to do our 4 or 5 different characters. We're just going to see them on this day or two, and we don't have to do any more expository dialogue sequences between them because we've got everything up front out the way. So maybe yeah, it seemed clunky at the beginning, but overall I think maybe it did help the film throughout, that we don't
yeah,
need any explaining later on because we've got it all out the way, and it makes all the
yeah. We know
character
when
stuff.
we are, who's who. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. It's probably like a necessary evil kind of thing.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. It can be
um
a bit like, well, it takes away from some of the mystery. You could have it would be a lot more open to interpretation if you maybe didn't have that at the beginning. But
Yeah, especially because most of the information is delivered through dialogue anyway. Like we
yeah,
have the school council meeting at the beginning, when basically we are the information is delivered to us again through the dialogue with the parents and the lady. So I don't know. Like I felt again, it's an interesting way to start a movie, but I was like, okay, when is this voiceover gonna stop? Because if it goes on for too long, I'm just gonna lose interest, I think, in the film. But yeah, I think if we really want to get into the nitty gritty of the film, we should just do just that and put a nice spoiler warning right here, because as we mentioned, to discuss the film means to spoil it, more so with this film than with others. So should we get into it?
Just off the bat, from our general thoughts, you'd recommend this film to people?
Oh yeah, I would. It's an interesting movie. It's not a perfect movie. Well, there's no such thing, I guess. It's definitely worth a watch. Your mileage may vary on how much the movie works for you, because I think so much hangs on the twist, or I guess the reveal of what's happening with the kids. And if you like that, it's gonna be great. If you enjoy, what the story reveals itself to be. But if you're expecting something else, or you were hoping, like me, that it wouldn't be that, then maybe you're gonna be a little bit disappointed. But it's still a very enjoyable film.
Go into what you thought was going to happen then, because you mentioned it went in a different way to you thought, and you didn't enjoy that as much.
Yeah. So like, let's start with what it is, which is, the answer to the big mystery is a witch did it. It's some kind of parasite of the mind that takes over your body and makes you do things
It's
against
like
your will.
voodoo. It's
Yeah,
voodoo magic,
it's
basically.
voodoo,
Yeah.
and there's a parallel to parasites as well. And I was pretty proud of myself, by the way. At the beginning of the movie, I immediately spotted this, because there's a dream sequence early on with Julia Garner's character Justine, and she goes into the classroom, and there's like parasite written on the dashboard behind her. So I was clued in early on to what this might be. First of all, I wasn't expecting an old witch, to be honest. I was kind of hoping it would be something else. But I thought I was being smart and an attentive viewer, spotting this thing so early on in the film. And then the movie proceeds to reference parasites like 1,000 times.
Yeah, they have that, like they're doing a lecture on that parasite, the same thing that Last
Yeah.
of Us is
The
based on.
Cordyceps documentary on TV. Yeah. And
which
then
is classic. We did a short film together, and we had that exact same thing
yeah,
basically in the movie.
a lot of parallels to stuff we've done in the past, like movie wise, in this film. We also had a lecture about cordyceps in a little short, and an old lady witch in another short. We'll get to that. Yeah, it's a bit all over the place. And since we are on Gladys, I guess one of my criticisms, which to be fair, this is clearly what the author intended to do, and if I'm not entirely on board with it, it's just a me thing. The movie is perfectly fine as is, but like I was like, why do you have to make her like this eccentric, crazy clown lady, right?
I mean, she
Um,
literally had like Joker makeup.
yeah.
It was,
It,
yeah, it was,
it makes the
but
whole thing a bit less believable to me.
I suppose so. I mean, I suppose, like I said, it is a bit dreamlike and it's a bit fairy tale. So I don't know whether, like, there's a lot of things which happened before which are also, supernatural and unrealistic. But I thought I was a bit disappointed as well that it was just an old lady witch.
Yeah.
But I thought her performance was so good, and she was so creepy in the scenes that she was in. It won me over. But because of, and spoiler here for Barbarian as well, slightly, if you haven't seen it, but I thought there was going to be a creature or
Yeah.
a demon or a monster in this, which
I was hoping
for my
aliens.
own for my own personal sensibilities, that's what I would have preferred at the end. There's a bit where we find the last character perspective we get is of Alex, the one boy who didn't
Yeah,
go
best
missing.
part of the movie.
Was that your best part of the movie?
No, well, I
Interesting.
mean, it's just it was a good kid acting. Like
He
really,
was great. For me, the
yeah,
crackhead
it was like
perspective was the best bit of the film.
you
But
find yourself more in him.
but
You see your reflection in it.
exactly, it spoke to me, that section. In the final section, you get the big climax of the movie where Julia Garner's character and Josh Brolin, they all get to the house, Alex's house, where Aunt Gladys is staying, and she's got his parents sort of locked into this sort of voodoo ritual,
Yeah,
and they sort of will do any of her commands basically. And Alex sneaks into her room where she's been kind of performing the witchcraft, and she has these tree branches and all these kind of sort of voodoo things. And I was really hoping that we were going to get a reveal of her in her like true form, and we were going
yeah.
to see, because she has a wig on and she wears all this makeup, and I thought once you tear away all the layers underneath, she was going to be an actual creature or
Or
some sort of
maybe she
demonic.
was, yeah, she was kind of like sheltering a demonic monster in that room or
Yes,
something.
in
Yeah.
this old lady, yeah, something like that. And I was really hoping for that, and
Do you
it didn't
think
quite come to be,
do you
unfortunately.
think she's like an old crone, like centuries old, or she's just like a lady who stumbled upon this voodoo ritual and she's using it to
Yeah, I got the sense that she's been around for a very, very long time, and that
she uses
she's
an
not
ancient
quite
word.
human.
Yeah, she uses an old term for tuberculosis, I think. It kind of like hints at the fact that she's been around for a very long time.
Yeah, and yeah, we see obviously like the deterioration in appearance, and she also says to Alex that, keeping it seems to be that she can sort of suck the life force out of people that she has under her control. And
Yeah.
that's why she decides to take all the kids and keep them in the basement, because having them around her keeps her youthful
Yeah,
or
it's
keeps her alive.
unclear what she's
Yeah,
doing, but it's
it's kind
definitely
of
has to do
suggested.
with yeah.
Yeah, because she said that she tells Alex the parents aren't doing enough, and she wants him to bring bits of the kids, bits of their belongings, so she can get them under the spell. So I got the sense that she was inhuman and had been around for a long time and is feeding off people's kind of souls or whatever life force to
Yeah.
stay alive for longer. But yeah, obviously I was hoping for a big reveal on that,
Yeah.
and we didn't quite get it. But interestingly, apparently, there was going to be another character section, and it was going to be Gladys in this movie,
Oh,
in the original story,
would have loved
and
to
we were
see
going to
that.
get her backstory, which I thought would be really cool. And again, you get in Barbarian, we go back into the past, and we get this kind of villain origin story at the end of the movie, which I loved. And I thought we might get something, and well, we could have got something similar like that if we got Gladys's perspective, and we could have gone back into like the 1700s, or something during like the witch trials or something like that,
Yeah.
and seen how she came to be, and got a little bit more of explanation to the magic and how it works. And because I appreciate those things, but also I didn't mind that it was left a bit more open to interpretation.
He clearly didn't want to settle on like specific explanations and parallels. We'll see. I have something else that I want to reference about the movie, but like generally he wanted to keep many things vague and up to the viewer's interpretation, so I appreciate that. But I think Gladys as a character would have benefited from a little bit more screen time and going deeper into her past and who she is, yeah, without losing the mystery around her. But like, how did the police see this woman, the lobotomized dad, and didn't think, maybe we should look into this situation a little bit more closely? Like, no other family was involved.
Yeah, that was
Um,
the worst bit of the movie, when they explain in Alex's section how they managed to avoid the police's investigation, and she sent all the kids out from the basement and sent them out into the woods for like
yeah,
what, an evening, whilst the house was being searched. And it's like, I think somebody in this town would
would have
notice
seen,
17
yeah.
kids running around. And yeah,
Now everyone
they
is
want to
sound asleep.
they want to try and explain it, but they want to keep it also mysterious. And the more explanation they gave to the mystery, the less interesting it became,
Yeah,
and
and
the less believable it came.
they have to establish through conversation that the kid's mom and Alex's mom, her mom is dead, and she's probably living far away from home. So this old lady who I think we're led to believe that she is impersonating this old aunt. She's not like the actual aunt of this woman.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
And I don't know, like I felt like it was very unbelievable. You were telling me the dad's parents weren't like around to help with the
Yeah,
investigation. It's a bit far-fetched, and it's made even less believable by the fact that the auntie, this Gladys character, is so clearly a crazy person. Like
yeah,
it would have
yeah,
been better
yeah.
for me if she acted very normal with people outside of the house. Like she's like is very severe, like hard, like I don't know, like and then when she's in the house with Alex, she goes full crazy crone lady mode, and we see who she is.
It didn't ruin the film for me.
No, absolutely
It
not.
was the weakest. It was definitely the weakest point of it, and yeah, it does get less interesting, but I still enjoyed the climax. But
Oh, the ending is fantastic.
yeah, I mean,
I
yeah, that too, and just the way Josh Brolin and Julia Garner's characters come together and they
Yeah,
sort of work together, even though, like, Josh Brolin is one of the fathers of the missing children, and he's probably the most cut up and affected by it, and he's sort of leading this bandwagon against Julia Garner as the teacher, because there's a lot of theories about her being somewhat involved, or knowing something that she's not telling about the disappearances of the kids. So I really liked their dynamic between each other. And to
do
be
you know
honest, the
that
best.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go on, go on.
Do you know that Josh Brolin's character was
Yes,
supposed to
it
be
was supposed
played
to.
by Pedro Pascal early on?
Thank God. And I think there was a little sheet I saw, because all the main characters, other than the guy that plays the crackhead,
Yeah,
were originally going to be somebody else, and due to scheduling issues, and I think this film got pushed back.
yeah,
Everybody had to be recast except from him. And honestly, when you see the recastings, you're like, I think this was a blessing in disguise. Like, this
yeah.
was everybody did a great job here.
I mean, it is a kind of like Joel from The Last of Us kind of role for
Yeah,
Pedro Pascal would have been decent in the role for
he would
sure,
have been
but
fine, but I personally prefer Josh
yeah,
Brolin.
Josh
You
Brolin
don't see
has
him.
yeah.
You haven't seen him in a film like this for a little while as well, so it's quite nice to see
And
him in
but it
something a
would have
bit
been
smaller.
funny.
And
Would have been funny to have two movies in the cinemas at the same time with both Pedro Pascal and Julia Garner, because she's the actress that plays the Silver Surfer in
yeah,
Fantastic
we have
Four.
Silver Surfer, we've got Thanos, we've got Wong,
Yeah,
we've got the whole Marvel crew here. We actually get a battle between Wong and Thanos
yeah.
at the
Alden
petrol station.
Ehrenreich, Alden Ehrenreich was
Oh yeah, and
young Han Solo, so
and
Star
young Han
Wars too.
Solo's there too. Yeah, and he was, I never watched that Han Solo film, and he's been in a few other things. He was apparently
He
in
is
Ironheart as
awesome.
well.
Yeah, he was in
He's so
Ironheart.
good in this.
I
He is
love
so
him
good in
in
this.
everything. It was fantastic. I had a little role in Hail Caesar. I think that was the first movie I've ever seen him in. It's like a
Okay.
Coen Brothers movie, and he was so funny in that film. Is just a very versatile actor, and he was actually really good in the Han Solo movie, which wasn't amazing, but it's definitely not the worst thing that came from Disney Star Wars. So yeah, I'm glad to see him in more things.
Yeah. His section, I could watch a whole movie about him and the crackhead guy. Like, those two
Yeah.
characters together were brilliant. Like, they're dynamic, and he was just he had a lot of depth to him, and it was, yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
was
did.
interesting, and it kind of added this element. It turned into a completely different movie for their section, and even the tone of it. We had this kind of upbeat techno score, and it felt like it felt like a whole different, fast paced, almost a different director that came in and did this bit, and I loved that section.
Yeah, no, I agree, and definitely his character was one of my favorites in the whole film. And this brings me to something that I wanted to say about the non-linear narrative, which is something that I really liked, and I was excited when a new title card would come up, because it was a new piece of the story that was revealed. But more than once, I was left thinking, like, why are we focusing on this specifically? Why we're telling this story? And especially towards the end, some of the stuff they were telling us about these characters didn't really add add up to much. Like, I don't know. Uh, it was a character development, I guess, but it's not relevant character development. Like what I loved Alden Ehrenreich's performance. Like the whole plot with him was really fun. But like, why, from like a storytelling perspective, why do we need his infidelity arc? Like he has enough on his plate as is. He beat up a kid. Is a father-in-law. Is the chief of police. I understand wanting to connect the various characters, so he sleeps with, Julia Garner's character in the story. But by the end, I felt like poor, poor Alden Ehrenreich was just there to be shot in the face.
Well, you get this, you get someone's story, and then you get the next person, you get how they cross paths in that day as
Yeah,
well. And it's sort of, with his story in particular, you saw all these terrible things that had happened to him that day, and it sort of
poor man.
explains his actions, a bit, and why he's on this like self-destructive path, basically, because he just had like the fucking worst day ever.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very
but I know
Pulp
what you mean.
Fiction-y. Yeah,
Yeah, I know what you mean. It is a bit like, oh, does this really add much to the final story and to the main plot? No, it probably doesn't. And there's moments in Barbarian like that. If you remember, is it Justin Long's character?
who's in
I
here
remember.
too, by the way.
Yes, yeah, I remember the scene when he's like measuring up the basement space to because he wants to sell it, and he's like looking at the square footage, and it's
Yeah,
like none of that stuff really plays into the themes or the narrative at the end. But it was just a funny, interesting moment. And similar to the infidelity arc, you have this scene where, he's searching the crackhead, and he's like, "Have you got any needles on you?" Puts his hand in his pocket and gets jabbed by a needle. And then he just decks him from behind. And then obviously realizes he's on camera and that he potentially might be infected from all this. And none of that necessarily plays into the final film
it
at
is
all. But
kind of fun that like
it's just
it like
interesting. Yeah.
trickles down to him kind of like threatening the crackhead, the junkie, not to come to the police station. And then when the junkie
Yes.
finds out about the kids, he wants to go to the station to get the reward
Yeah.
and save the kids, basically. And he basically stops him. So like I liked all that like kind of like butterfly effect of events.
Yeah.
But generally, I by the end, when Julia Garner just shoots him in the face, I was like, oh, is that it for this character? I was hoping,
Yeah.
I don't know. And also, I didn't find the movie particularly scary, which, we recently discussed in our Bring Her Back review, that it's not necessarily a negative when a horror movie is not, making you shit your pants. But here I felt like the movie was trying so hard to be a horror, and it just fell flat for me. Like there's a few very predictable jump scare sequences,
Yeah.
classic dream sequence that ends in a big boo, and I hated that.
I
Uh,
reckon that was like there was a couple of those sort of in the earlier section of the film, and I feel like that was totally like studio notes.
yeah,
It's
let's
like,
put
well,
some
we have to
scary.
have a jump scare here because it's boring.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
like,
know.
okay.
I
But
hated
there
that.
was actually, I think it was the second one, because you get the very first dream sequence is Julia Garner going through the classroom, and it's seen in the trailer with the little boy lifting his head up with the Joker makeup on his face. And I don't know whether this was just my screening, and I want to watch the film again, but I've seen other people complain about this as well. But the film was so dark in points, and like my cinema was like quite light, like they left some of the lights on, so some of it, like the really dark scenes, are a bit hard to make out, and that kind of sullied that experience a little bit. But the second jump scare actually got me and creeped me out quite a bit when Josh Brolin's sleeping in his kid's bed, and
Yeah,
he looks up, and oh no, his kids
He
like
follows
lying in
him. He
bed.
follows him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he looks at he puts the light on his face and it turns to like Gladys's face or something. And it was like such a, yeah, I mean, it was a classic jump scare and it literally did like a loud bang that came with it as well. But
Yeah.
it did, the imagery creeped me out.
About that scene, I had the dumbest thought while watching the movie.
Are you going to talk about the assault rifle?
Yeah, like I'm gonna
It
share
was
it.
like it was like a mystery box from Call of Duty. Do you remember those on like the zombie game?
Yeah,
Like it was just
exactly.
like floating in the air. It was I quite liked it, and yeah, go into what because it made me think the film was going to go in a very different direction.
Oh my god, such a different direction I was expecting from this specific
Did you
moment.
assume? I thought this whole and then maybe that assault rifle bit is in the trailer as well, but or there's like a poster image with an assault rifle above the house on it,
Maybe.
because I thought this was all going to be about mass shootings,
Yeah,
school
that's
shootings.
what I
Yeah,
thought. You know, and you know,
yeah.
the movie clearly gestures towards that issue. You know, these
Do you
17
think so?
kids. Well, I mean, the 17 kids who disappear one day. You know, it's
Yeah,
clearly
I suppose so.
could be interpreted as a metaphor of gun violence and school shootings.
Yeah,
Oh, this
yeah,
whole
yeah.
class disappears. Why? You know, but I had this dumb idea that kind of like ruined the movie for like 10 minutes because you know, like we have this scene, Josh Brolin is having this nightmare, he's sleeping in his son's bed, he wakes up, he sees himself in the bed, then goes outside and kind of like traces his son's steps to the house, and he sees this giant silhouette of an assault rifle towering over the house. And the 2:17, which is a time of night where the kids disappeared, it
Yeah.
becomes like the ammo counter, I guess it's called,
Yeah.
on the
It's
on the
like
rifle.
it's like a fucking alien pulse rifle
Yeah.
with the with the numbers on the side.
So yeah, I thought of that too. And in that moment, I sunk in my seat because I was like, oh, this is going to be like just an elaborate metaphor for gun violence and school shootings in America.
And I would have hated that too. Yeah, yeah.
And but like not just, oh, you know, this movie, like, because the movie does have like sort of themes that relate to that, and that's fine. But I was expecting it to be like literally that was the plot of the movie.
Yeah, same.
Josh Brolin has gone mad with grief, right, over the loss of his son.
All
So
the
yeah,
parents are so grief stricken that they just don't remember the event
yeah,
or something like
he
that.
has
Yeah.
made up this whole scenario he has to investigate because he can't come to terms with the fact that his son is dead and he died in a school shooting. And that the movie would reveal that actually, you know, nothing really strange happened. They just died in
Yeah.
a school shooting. And I begged the movie not to go in that direction. And fortunately it didn't. But for like 10 minutes there, I was like very scared that that was going to be the
Yeah,
story.
yeah. Yeah, and it was like, because in my head I'm thinking, right, if that's gonna be what the event was, how the fuck logically can you explain any of this? Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you can't cover that up. You can't, unless it's more of a psychological thing where everybody involved is misremembering it because of how tragic it was or something. But yeah, and I'm glad it was just a more of a thematic thing. And
Yeah.
you know, there's, you know, you could say it's referencing to school shootings, and like you said, maybe that was in the like Zach Cregger's mind when he was writing this, but it also ties in with the themes of the kids being weaponized, you know.
Yeah.
And Josh
They are
Brolin
the
says,
weapons of the
yeah,
title.
and he, you know, he literally says that at one point. You know, he thinks they're like
Homing
guided
missiles,
missiles
yeah.
to the
Yeah.
onto the spot. So it works either way, and I like that. And it was a really weird, surreal image that it's just like, yeah, it was probably
It's very
the most out
Lynchian.
of place.
Yeah.
It was the most out of place thing that happened in this movie, and nothing's as surreal as that at all in the rest of the film. But I liked it.
You know, I enjoyed it. And, you know, we said this before, but the movie loses me a little bit once the reveal happens, once we are introduced to Gladys. But then once you, like, I think when I will watch this again, I will enjoy it more, knowing where it's going and kind of like picking up on the clues. Because when it's a mystery, when there's a mystery involved, you always kind of like make your own movie in your mind as you're watching it.
Yeah.
And most of the times, what you're thinking about does not match with what the movie is. And that can kind of soured the experience a bit. Not because the movie that you had in your head was better than the movie that you're currently watching, but because, you know, your expectations have not been met. And so yeah, you need to kind of like meet the movie where it's at, where it wants to be. And I felt like I didn't when I watched this. I didn't meet the movie halfway. I kind of like wanted it to go in a very specific, weird, supernatural direction, and it just was voodoo lady, and that's fine. But I don't know.
Yeah, it was a bit more generic than something that we were hoping for. But
What kind of score would you give it then?
maybe a 7.5.
All right. Yeah, I think yeah, 7 for me could be a good grade.
Did you find that ending hilarious?
I fucking loved it, man. Like it's so jarring. All of a sudden, it snaps the branch. Gladys understands what's going on, and what I loved is that like she just doesn't have any way to counter that. Like she's not a powerful witch. She's just a bitch, basically, that only has one trick. And if you find a way around that, then you can murder her in the most gruesome way.
It turns very like Sam Raimi kind of style in that moment. Yeah, and you get this long scene of her like running, Ferris Bueller style, like running through all these houses and gardens in this like wide shot that's so funny.
It's very cathartic after
and it's so rare. Like, you know, a lot of the times in movies like this, the parents will get their revenge, and you know, the killer or whoever gets their comeuppance, but never do the like kid victims ever get to exact their revenge. So this was really unique in that sense, and I really enjoyed that.
Loved it.